They had my son by both arms, marching him toward their SUV. They never checked to see who his father was. The scene is burned into my mind, his sneakers scuffing the dirt, unable to get traction. The look on his face wasn't anger, it was shattered innocence. Two men in dark tactical gear, vests boldly labeled HOA cop, had him completely overpowered. He was just a 16-year-old kid walking home from the bus stop. Before we get into the heart of this, tell me where you're watching from. Drop your country in the comments. I want to see how far the truth can spread. You need to understand how we got here. We chose that neighborhood for its serenity. Lake views, tall pines, a promise of quiet safety. I deliberately kept a low profile. My job requires discretion, so to my neighbors, I was just a reserved family man. The HOA board president, a woman I'll call Veronica, saw that quietness as weakness. She ruled our community like a petty dictator, obsessed with appearances and submission. My polite refusals to engage with her power plays made us a target. But her real vendetta, it wasn't with me, it was with my boy after he secured the lead role in the school play that her own son had wanted. The harassment campaign was subtle at first. Notices about unauthorized vegetation where my son had planted sunflowers, warnings about excessive noise when he practiced his lines on the porch. Then came the official citations, threatening fines and corrective action. It was a transparent fabrication of violations, a paper trail meant to intimidate. I responded with a formal legal letter outlining that an HOA possesses zero police power, especially over a minor. My letter was met with silence. Then she upgraded her tactics. She hired private compliance officers. That's who had my son. I was pulling into my driveway when I saw it unfold. One man stepped in front of him, the other moved in from behind. I heard the command, "You're in violation of community statutes. You need to come with us." My son's reply, "This is crazy. I live here," was ignored. They seized his arms and began to pull. That's when I left my car door open and started walking. "Take your hands off my child, now." My voice didn't crack. It was a flat, cold statement. They halted, more surprised than compliant. The larger one looked over his shoulder, his expression one of pure irritation. "Sir, step back. This is a lawful HOA detainment." He didn't loosen his grip. In fact, his knuckles whitened. That detail told me everything. Real authority doesn't need to prove itself through brutality. An imitation of power always crumbles when faced with the real thing. My movements were measured. I reached back and drew my sidearm, holding it steady at my side. "This is your only warning. Release him and step away." The air turned to glass. The second man snorted, a derisive laugh. "Nice toy. You have no idea who you're dealing with. We have full board authorization." They began to drag my son again, his body twisting in their grasp. "Dad!" That fear in that cry cut through me like a blade. I took one deliberate step forward, raising the weapon to a low-ready position. "Let him go." They didn't. They yanked him violently toward the open rear door of their vehicle. In that split second, my training took over. The world narrowed to a single, justifiable purpose. I fired. The first round struck the man on the left. He released my son instantly, collapsing onto the gravel. The second man froze, shock erasing his arrogance. Then, instead of surrendering, he made a desperate, foolish charge toward me. I fired a second time. He went down, clutching his thigh, a cry of pain and shock tearing from his throat. The silence afterwards was immense. "Come here, now," I said to my son. He staggered to me, his whole body vibrating with adrenaline and terror. I kept my focus on the two men, securing their dropped radios, and made the call. 911, this is a federal officer. 2 armed impersonators attempted to kidnap my minor son. Shots fired. Scene is secure. Send police and medical. I gave our location and my identification. By the time I hung up, the first neighbors were peering out. A voice called from a porch, "My security camera got it all." The police response was rapid and professional. I had already placed my weapon on the ground, hands visible. I am the shooter. I am a deputy U.S. Marshal. Those men were attempting to abduct my miter son. That declaration changed the entire tenor of the response. Paramedics worked on the two assailants. The first man, the one who had laughed, was unresponsive. He was pronounced dead at the scene. The second man, wounded in the leg, was loaded into an ambulance, babbling about just doing our job. A kind deputy wrapped a thermal blanket around my son's shoulders. The shaking wouldn't stop. And then came the evidence. It was irrefutable. Multiple doorbell cameras from different angles captured the entire sequence. The ambush, the dragging, my commands, their refusal, the moment I defended my child. It was a prosecutor's dream, but the digital paper trail was even more damning. The wounded man, seeking leniency, handed over his phone. The texts from Veronica were chilling. Ensure he is unavailable for opening night. Apply maximum pressure. The father needs to learn. Their kind doesn't belong in our community. She hadn't just sanctioned it, she had commissioned it. Veronica was arrested before sunrise. The wounded enforcer pleaded guilty to attempted kidnapping, impersonation, and conspiracy, accepting a 30-year sentence to avoid a trial. In court, he was a broken man, a heared bully who never imagined his target's father was the law. Veronica was convicted on a slew of charges, including conspiracy to commit kidnapping and hate crime enhancements. She was sentenced to 28 years in a federal penitentiary. The HOA itself was placed into receivership and dissolved by a county judge. My internal review at the Marshal Service was swift. The shooting was deemed a righteous, textbook example of defending a third party from imminent, unlawful kidnapping. I was back on duty within a week, but some things don't fade. The sound of my son's voice calling for me, the feel of his shaking hands. You can rebuild a community, but you must first protect the family inside it. My son performed brilliantly on opening night. The standing ovation was for him, but for me, it was a symbol of resilience. We still live in that house by the lake. The neighborhood is quieter now, genuinely peaceful. So I pose the question to you. In that moment, with your child being taken by armed strangers, what line would you not cross? Did my actions go too far, or were they the only rational response to an irrational evil? Let me know your honest thoughts below. If you believe in the right to defend your family against corrupt power, show your support. Hit that like button and subscribe to Trending Tales Pulse for more uncompromising stories of justice.